Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Leadership Exchange podcast with me, your host, Christopher Pietroni. This podcast is brought to you by the University of Birmingham, where I am Professor of Leadership Practice and Director of the Birmingham Leadership Institute. In today's episode, I'm absolutely thrilled that we're going to be joined by Nöella Coursaris Musunka. Noëlla has had an extraordinarily successful career as first an international model and then as the founder and CEO of the Nöella Foundation, which works to support the education, empowerment, leadership of girls in the Congo. Noëlla has received numerous industry and humanitarian awards. She was named by the BBC as one of its 100 most inspirational and influential women. She's been named a Daughter of Greatness by the Muhammad Ali Center, and the Nöella Foundation received a World Literacy Award in recognition of its work in 2021. Quite a record. Noëlla, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward for our conversation.
Wonderful. So, Nöella, you were already you had a successful career as a model before you founded the Nöella Foundation. You had won competitions, you had been the face of international brands, you had appeared in glamorous magazines, in Vogue, in Vanity Fair, and so on. And it may seem to some like quite a gap or distance between that world and the world that you spend much of your time on now with Nöella. And I'm curious to hear a little bit more about where your motivation came from to devote so much of your time and energy to working with girls in the Congo.
I have two children, so my first priority in my life is my two kids, my son and my daughter, and they come every summer with me in the Congo and at Nöella for 6-7 weeks. My motivation really comes from my childhood. My father died when I was 5 years old. My mother didn't have any resources to keep me. I was the only child. So to give me a better chance to be successful in my life, she thought at this moment it was to give me away. So I grew up in different families in Europe, and the crucial time of my life is my 18 years old when I go back to see my mother after 13 years that I haven't seen her. And when I see her, I saw a beautiful country, Congo, but a lot of challenges, a lot of children out of school, a lot of problems. But I see my mother too struggling in her own life. And there was a moment where I always say in my heart, Mom, I will help you, but I want to do something back for my country, and I hope it will be education. So years after, I decided to create my foundation. It's set up in America and in the Congo, and I lead Nöella as a volunteer. I mainly manage all the team, the programs with the team, and fundraise, because unfortunately, if you don't have funds, you cannot exist. And this year is a big milestone. Is the 15 years of Nöella. It's gonna be the first graduation of a student in July 2023. So there's a lot of things to look forward.
Yeah, I mean it's an extraordinary success story, and we're gonna explore a little more about the work itself. But I just want to keep going with this question of motivation, because I think people really readily understand how, given your personal experience and your mother's experience, that the desire to support her would be strong. But not everybody facing that would have thought, actually, it's more than that. It's about giving back in a more fundamental way, not just to the individual, but to the place. And I'm curious about exploring that.
Yes, because for 15 years to have the same passion, leadership, I give nearly 5 hours every day of my life on Nöella, multiple conference calls, engagement speaking in front of donors, my time in the Congo when I'm over there, being there 100% for them when the phone rings. So, and a lot of challenges to set up Nöella in the Congo, working in a village where it's remotely, there's no water, no electricity, where there's a political destabilization, where we have conflicts in the east of the side of the Congo, not where the school and where not a program is, but it affects the narrative of the Congo, because unfortunately when you go in front of donors, when you want to raise, they read about the Congo, and right now we still have the conflict. So you have to be very precise of the programs you're doing, what you want to achieve with your program, with Malaika, and how it's benefiting, how it's impactful, how it's sustainable. So you have to prove even more. And being an African leader, being an African philanthropist, African CEO, and a woman, and a Black woman in the philanthropy world, I needed really to put my foot in to say what I'm doing with my team. It's really incredible. And we're not only changing lives, we're empowering them, and they're going to be the next leaders of the continent. So yes, we have to invest in them. So it's how you work. And secondly, it's tough because I'm African and I don't want to portray a negative part of Africa. So in our website, in my speech, I rarely talk about the negativity. I want to focus on the positivity and focus on the work that we're doing. But giving back, it's you have to be strong, because it's not only about fundraising, it's not about managing the programs. There's a lot of emotion going on. Right. Seeing all these girls growing, seeing your team growing, seeing your team losing their mother or their father, or losing one of the girls that come to you that she doesn't have food at the house, that she lost a mom and a dad, or having a girl that had an accident, and what do? You bring her to the hospital and you are there for her 100%. So there's a lot of unexpected things that happen during everything that you're creating. And you have to be strong.
When you were growing up in Europe, did you always imagine that you would want to be working in the Congo, or is that something that came as a surprise to you?
No, because the diaspora, generally leaving Africa, always help the family. We are big contributing to our continent, and we generally help back a mother or father or the proximity family. That's something that is very amazing from the diaspora. And for me to help my mom, that was always something number one priority. But when I went to Congo, I saw so many children where the story could have been mine, where they didn't have the chance to go to school. The school in Congo, you have to pay to attend. And it could have been me, being not going to school over there. And that's something that I always say to myself with the family I was growing, that I will definitely do. But I can, when you grow up without a mom and a dad, you are, that gives me a lot of strength in everything that I do. I'm a very career person, I'm very driven, I'm very resilient, and I'm focused. When I start something, I go until the end, and I want to realize it. And that's something that comes with your personality, but with your drive.
Were you also, when you were growing up, were you aware of the injustices that were sort of around you in the countries that you were in Europe? Was that something that struck you as well?
Yes, Congo. It's an incredible country. It's so beautiful, and we have the rainforest, we have the gorillas, we have so many wonders. But the other side, we are completely have a curse of being one of the richest countries in the world, where you have the coltan, the cobalt, where you have niobium, and all these resources that the world depends, where 70% of these resources, what you have in your phone, in your green cars, in the aerospace, come from Congo. And it's sad that these minerals don't contribute to the country, don't contribute to the people. And for me, the students that we have understand really well what's going on in the Congo and understand the problems. And a lot of them come to talk to me, and we have a long conversation. They call me Mama Noëlla, and they say, Mama Noëlla, we don't understand how come we don't make funds in the Congo. The mineral come from our countries. And I really pray that one of these days that will be this girl that really push this change. Because yes, the mineral should be processed in the Congo. We should be able to do cars, we should be able to make funds and everything. But it's a long, long process of leadership, of infrastructure. Where we work, like I was telling you, there's no water, electricity. Before even we start to build the school, you needed to build a well to have the water for the toilet facilities, to make the bricks. I pushed the government to make the road for many years, and they make 70% of the roads. And the village has really, really, from 15 years when it was a bush, has been really completely developed since Malaika put all the programs over there.
So let's talk a little bit about Malaika and its programs and its development over the years, because as you were describing, it's much more than a school.
Of course, it's an ecosystem.
And you describe it as an ecosystem. So maybe just give us a feel for that ecosystem and what are the elements of it that you think are most significant?
Yeah, so Malaika really started from a piece of paper, first of all. From a piece of paper, it grew into what we have. We started with 3 classrooms. Now we have 18 classrooms from one building. We have 10 buildings. We started with 104 students. Now we have 430 students. They all arrive. The girls, Malaika is a school for girls. So the girls arrive at 5 years old until 18 years old. We provide them uniform, school supplies, breakfast, lunch, a very holistic curriculum from music, coding, STEM, a lot of tech programs. And we really make them try to think out of the box. So we upgraded constantly the curriculum, really do a lot of training on the teachers. And myself, I'm a mom, so I wanted to build a school where I could send my own daughter. I saw when I wanted to start before Malaika, so many schools in very poor conditions. And I wanted to do not only a beautiful school, but having a very strong curriculum that being taught at the school. And because the problem of water in the village, we decided to invest in water and sanitation. So we built over the 15 years more than 28 wells in different villages that impact 35,000 people. So, you have the Malaika is really 5 pillars. You have the school, you have the community center, you have the technical classes, you have the water sanitation, sport, and we have the agricultural farm where we teach about organic farming and where the food that we're growing go back to the canteen of the school. And all the mothers, we teach them to make accessories, mask, wallet, bags, etc. And the accessories are being sold and the money come back to Malaika.
So I think this is really, really interesting and quite distinctive about the work of Malaika, that it does operate across all of those kind of domains and has come to understand itself as an ecosystem. And I'm just curious about whether that's how it began. I mean, when you first had the idea, when you first got going, were you thinking systemically, do you think?
No. And I think what's really kept me going is to see all these smiles of the girls and the mothers and the father coming to study. But I never envisaged that it would be so big like that. And during the UN week in September, we launched the Malaika Toolkit, the blueprint. How organization, government, individuals can duplicate the ecosystem as a whole, or some parts of the ecosystem in any communities in the world. Because I was always asked, how can we build a school in Liberia? How can we build a community center in Ghana, or the technical classes in South Africa? And I was saying with my team, it would be amazing if we can put like a guideline. It took us years to write that, so you can download the guideline or the videos, or you can have courses, or you can go on the site visit, a work visit for 3 days and really learn, be inspired, and how you're going to implement that in your communities. It will be only one Malaika, but I would love to see one of our programs to be duplicated. Of course, what you do in Congo cannot be the same if you work in a community in Brazil. It has to be, any programs that you will develop has to be suitable for the problems and the solution of the community, and it has to be led by the community. All our staff is Congolese, and we put a lot of emphasis on their leadership skills, on their training, and we learn from them too. It's very important, an exchange of learning.
So that seems really, really significant to me, because when you describe the different elements of Mali, again, the need to involve the parents and all the consequences of not doing that, when you describe it, it seems so obvious, right? The strapline for Malaika is "Empower Me," which I just think is wonderful, and I'm curious about why you made that central to the mission, and what you think empowerment really means in the context of Kalabuka, where Malaika does its work.
But seeing the history of Africa, the colonization for so many centuries, I was in Senegal and I went to the island Gorée, Ile de Gorée, and to see where the slaves were living and take the boat and how many millions of them died. It's a sad history of Africa and of our humanity. And I think we cannot anymore impose, but we need to empower and we need to trust. And me being a Black woman, we are equal, and I'm just there to assist. But we cultivate a lot of the leadership skills to the management team and to the student. A lot of the girls and the students at the school or center, they have a lot of tasks, a lot of responsibility, and they're great. They're growing. They're gonna be. Francisca want to be an engineer. Jolie want to be an architect. Kiputa want to become a chemist. So they all have dreams, and we are there to help them to reach their dreams. And I'm looking forward to see them, how they will grow in the society, find the space, find the happiness, and how they will help their families.
And I know that you've said previously that you see yourself as helping to kind of educate and develop the future leaders of the continent, right? So, what kind of leadership do you think they're going to need to be able to, enact? What sort of leadership do you hope for from those girls as they become young women?
An honest leadership, very passionate, a lot of compassion, a lot of patience. But leadership too, you need to be firm. You have to have goals, and you need really to try to reach these goals. And to be successful in whatever you do, you need to have a roadmap. And Malaika is a roadmap every year, what we want to achieve at every level. And it's tough. And on the journey, I always say to the girls and to the students, there's a lot of bumps. But I want to see a leadership too where there's emotions. In Africa sometimes, and in a lot of leaders sometimes. Now I think the time change. You need to show your emotions. You need to show too that sometimes you have your ups and downs, and sometimes you need to take a step back. When I'm there for 2 months, they know when I need to step back, they're not going to see me for 2 days. Because I need to swallow a lot of things, to rethink, and to have a great conversation. And then I reappear and I come stronger. And you need your moment.
So as we've kind of been exploring, and Noëlla, you African woman from the Congo, but grew up largely in Europe because of the circumstances of your parents.
And lived in America for many years.
And lived in America for many years. Historically, as you've said, these kinds of programs and philanthropy generally in Africa has been kind of controlled largely by North American and European donors and investors, largely white. How significant do you think it is that you are a woman from Africa in affecting the work of Malaika and its success?
When I started 15 years ago, I was the philanthropy. It was a very male-dominated world and very white. And it's only since a few years that I see a big increase of women and more diversity, more inclusion, but we still have far to come. I do a lot of advocacy for peace, for girls' education, for education in general. But I do a lot of advocacy that programs in Africa need to be led by Africans. And we need to give them the skills and the power to do it. And in collaboration, of course, with international support and donors and knowledge and exchange. I think everything that we have to do, it has to be exchanged. And it has to be multi-generation learning too.
How do you think that people from North America and Europe, particularly white people, how can they be good allies rather than sort of white saviors in this context? What are you looking for from them?
I have amazing donors that really like this philosophy, and is the reason they're coming into Malaika. They like the fact that the team on the ground is from Congo, is from locally. And I think the ecosystem, the Malaika blueprint, is a good way to encourage these next few steps, and to encourage like the next leaders of the continent, and leaders that we want to see. I work in the fashion industry, and I was tired to see it was frustrating to see only maybe the diversity at the level of the catwalk, but not at the leadership level. Covers, it's since few years we're seeing more diversity in covers, not only diversity of skin, but of bodies, of shapes, of culture, and etc. And it's beautiful to see this growth. But we want to see the diversity from the supply chains. We want to see the diversity that the designer is someone that being diverse, the decision maker, the marketer, the CFO, and etc. At every level, we want to see this inclusivity and diversity. And it's very, very important. We just don't want to look the people that's going to sell the clothes or going to be on the catwalk. We want to see from at every level. And, even when I was doing modeling, it was modeling agency where having only one black girl or two black girl and one Asian and one Indian. Even on catwalk, it was the quota of one black girl. In the magazine, the same. And even the philanthropy world, they were not interested to write about me or Malaika. They were more interested to write a big celebrity going to Africa and gonna save Africa. They will have 4 pages. But now the world changed. They need authentic leader. They need authentic programs. They need authentic influencer. And it's beautiful to see, because you know what, we sometimes talk about negativity, but I think it's good to see and to acknowledge positivity and to push. Me, I'm not, when people sometimes invite me and they want to introduce me, I'm an influencer. I'm not an influencer. For me, I see myself, I'm an action maker. I'm an action builder. I build things. I put team together. I raise money. I sit on advisory board where I challenge the directors, how they run the programs, what they have, and what we can do to improve. I just don't sit and shut up. I just want to always rethink how we can do better and how we can adapt ourselves in the world we live in.
Have there ever been times when you thought it might not succeed, where you really questioned whether it could succeed or not?
Yes, there's a lot of moment of doubt. When we didn't raise enough money, where it was tough to build a team, where it was tough myself too to run it. Because I'm a mother, I have 2 kids, I'm cooking every day, I'm doing homework, I still have to work, I do consultancy for companies, I do modeling, I have so many things that I'm doing, but now I have an amazing team. But yes, you have a lot of moment of doubt, you have a lot of moment where you want to quit everything, where you want to stop. But it's hard, you cannot stop, you see all these kids, all the staff depending on you, on Malaika, and actually I don't want to stop because I love everything I do, and I love all the girls that I'm seeing growing, and I'm excited for the future and excited what they will bring to the continent.
Noëlla, I'm sure there are a lot of people who will find your leadership inspiring, but on this podcast, it's a question we ask all of our guests. Whose leadership inspires you?
Wow, I have a lot of amazing leaders that inspire me. But my leaders are definitely the people working in the Congo, and the mothers and the fathers. When I go to Congo, when I travel in Africa, when I see these mothers working 1 hour with things on their head and going to sell the goods for hardly no money to feed their family, and they're walking back and they have the biggest smile, for me, they are real leaders. Never complain. Rainy season, it rains so much, it's so tough, and you see them walking. And even is one of the reasons we did the wells, because we were seeing people walking 1 hour, 45 minutes to fetch water. And it was something that really was stuck on me. I'm like, how they can do that? And they are the leaders for me. They're humble. They have passion. They never complain. And they trust what we do. And for me, this is the leader or a father that go to sell bricks or gonna go walk in. Most of them don't have cars. So the village where we're working, I see a lot of them walking to go to places or to sell their things. And it's always like so fascinating to see them. And they don't know what his leadership is, probably. But for me, they are leaders.
Noëlla, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to explore the work of Malaika with you, but also your story and your journey into leadership and the various ways in which you exercise your leadership. One of the things that really strikes me about your approach is that it has this extraordinary passion at its core, this real drive that clearly motivates you to keep going and to bring others into the work with you. But you seem to combine that with a real determination around delivery. Noëlla, thank you, and congratulations on 15 years with Malaika. And that moment when those girls graduate is going to be very special, I'm sure. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Leadership Exchange podcast. If you've enjoyed the episode, do please help to support us by giving us a rating and a review, and of course subscribe. And you can keep up to date with everything about the podcast by visiting birmingham.ac.uk/leadership-exchange.